This is part 3 of 4 from the book Forever Chemicals by Marko Vovk. Recent advisories show the danger directly. New Mexico's public health officials warn that eating just 1 gram of duck from Holloman Lake could breach the EPA's lifetime safe exposure. Water in the lake shows 5.916 ppt, more than 1,600 times the regulatory limit. Global surveys now note nearly 70% of groundwater exceeds Canada's recommended levels. Wildlife gene expression is altered, populations fall, and ecosystem resilience disappears. Migratory birds and mammals transfer PFAS along major flyways and migration paths, spreading risks everywhere. Bioaccumulation worsens through generations, raising the stakes for every affected species. The world faces a PFAS crisis of immense proportions. Solutions require immediate, coordinated action. Regulatory reform, rigorous cleanup, technological innovation, and a complete shift in production and waste management. Public engagement and education foster stronger policies and create markets for PFAS-free products. The health of wildlife and humanity now depends on recognizing these risks and working together to protect future generations and the planet we all share. Chapter 9, Regulations. Due to their environmental persistence and potential health risks, the regulation of per- and polyfluoroalkyl substances, PFAS, has become a global priority. In recent years, governments worldwide have implemented stricter regulations to mitigate chemical impact. This comprehensive overview examines the evolving regulatory criteria, focusing on recent regional bans and restrictions. On April 10, 2024, the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, finalized national primary drinking water regulations for 6 chemical compounds. The new rule establishes legally enforceable maximum contaminant levels, MCLs, levels for PFOA, PFOS, PFHXS, PFNA, HFPODA, and chemical mixtures. Public water systems must monitor for these PFAS by 2027 and comply with standards by 2029. The EPA estimates that 4,100 to 6,700 water systems serving between 83 million and 105 million people will need to reduce regulated forever chemicals. The regulation is expected to cost $1.63 billion per year, totaling more than $128 billion over 82 years. This cost includes the expenses for monitoring, treatment, and compliance. Water agencies have commented that the EPA's cost estimates are lower than their projections. The EPA announced that $1 billion in funding is available through the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act to support implementation. This funding helps states and territories implement contaminant testing and treatment at public water systems and assists private property owners in addressing PFAS contamination. On April 19, 2024, the EPA finalized a rule designating PFOA and PFOS, including their salts and structural isomers, as hazardous substances under Comprehensive Environmental Response, Compensation, and Liability Act, also known as Superfund and CERCLA. Effective July 8, 2024, this rule expands liability under the law and brings new obligations for the regulated community. The EPA issued a PFAS enforcement discretion and settlement policy under CERCLA on April 19, 2024. This policy provides a framework for holding responsible entities that have contributed to PFAS release, including manufacturers and industrial parties. It aims to strike a balance between enforcement and providing comfort for municipal entities and farmers applying biosolids to land by allowing for discretion in certain cases. In February 2023, the European Union proposed a comprehensive ban on non-essential PFAS uses. The EU adopted a phased approach to implementing PFAS regulations, with a 10-year transition period for critical applications like firefighting foams in offshore oil and gas operations. The EU emphasizes enforcement, with regulatory bodies like the European Chemicals Agency, ECHA, empowered to monitor compliance and impose penalties. The EU sets strict guidelines and penalties to ensure companies adhere to regulations. Australia introduced regulatory measures focused on PFOA and related compounds. The Australian Industrial Chemicals Introduction Scheme, AICIS, requires importers and exporters to obtain authorization for PFOA-related compounds. This process involves submitting detailed information about the compound, its intended use, and its potential environmental and health impacts. Australia's approach aligns with the EU and US international standards. In the United States, the regulatory guidelines for these chemicals are more fragmented, with federal and state-level actions. The EPA proposes rules to prevent 300 PFAS chemicals from re-entering commerce. Companies must complete EPA reviews and risk assessments before manufacturing or processing certain inactive PFAS chemicals. States have taken the initiative to implement stricter regulations. Minnesota bans the intentional use of PFAS in various consumer products starting January 1st, 2025. Manufacturers must report PFAS usage by January 1st, 2026. Other states, like California and New York, have introduced laws to reduce foreign chemicals in food packaging and water supplies. The global regulatory criteria for PFAS are evolving, and several key trends are emerging. There is a growing trend toward comprehensive bans over partial restrictions. Regulators are adopting phased implementation strategies to allow industries time to adjust and find safer alternatives. Due to the critical nature of PFAS applications, specific industries, such as firefighting, may receive needed consideration. These sectors may get extended transition periods or allowances for continued use of certain PFAS compounds. Global coordination is improving as regulators in different countries collaborate on PFAS risk assessments and regulatory measures, providing reassurance about the collective effort in addressing this issue. As concerns about PFAS contamination grow, regulatory bodies are adopting stronger enforcement mechanisms, including stricter penalties for non-compliance. This trend is observed across different regions, reflecting the increasing urgency to address PFAS-related issues and the gravity of the situation. The designation of PFOA and PFAS as hazardous substances under CERCLA expands liability under the law. Responsible parties, PRPs, include current and past owners and operators of impacted property, generators, and hazardous waste transporters. A recent court decision reaffirms that knowledge is not a factor in the liability scheme. The EPA's enforcement policy for forever chemicals under CERCLA focuses on parties contributing to PFAS release. Implementing this policy may prove difficult at sediment sites where most PFAS likely come from municipal discharges. In the United Kingdom, the Health and Safety Executive, HSE, publishes a report on regulatory management options for PFAS. This report is the first step toward a UK PFAS restriction proposal that is expected to align with the EU proposal. The Department of Defense, DoD, in the United States administers actions specific to defense personnel, operations, installations, and their immediate surroundings. In Canada, regulations are overseen by Environment and Climate Change Canada, ECCC, and its provincial offices. Mexico's Ministry of Environment has not yet regulated PFAS. The Stockholm Convention on Persistent Organic Pollutants plays a significant role in shaping global PFAS regulations. It provides a framework for eliminating or reducing the production and use of persistent organic pollutants, including certain PFAS compounds. The EPA's PFAS Strategic Roadmap, updated in November 2024, outlines the agency's comprehensive approach to addressing PFAS contamination. This strategy includes actions across various EPA programs, focusing on research, restriction, and remediation of PFAS. The National Defense Authorization Act, NDAA, has included increasing PFAS-related requirements since 2018. The 2018 NDAA mandated a study on PFAS exposure and health implications in communities near military bases with known PFAS contamination. This comprehensive approach should instill confidence in the agency's commitment to addressing PFAS contamination. The funding for PFAS remediation and research comes from various sources. The EPA makes funding available through programs like the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. States may allocate funds for PFAS-related initiatives. In some cases, responsible parties may be required to pay for cleanup and remediation efforts. Enforcement of PFAS regulations varies by jurisdiction. In the U.S., the EPA and state environmental agencies are responsible for the needed enforcement. Member states and EU-level bodies like ECHA play key roles in ensuring compliance with PFAS regulations in the EU. The costs associated with PFAS regulation and remediation are significant. Water utilities, manufacturers, and other affected industries may bear substantial costs to comply with new standards. These costs may be passed on to consumers through increased prices for goods and services. The PFAS regulations continue to evolve, and industries are adapting to new requirements. This includes developing alternative substances, modifying production processes, and implementing new treatment technologies. The regulatory framework is expected to remain dynamic as scientific understanding of PFAS impacts grows. Global efforts to address PFAS contamination face obstacles due to these substances' ubiquity and persistence in the environment. Ongoing research aims to understand better PFAS behavior, health impacts, and effective remediation techniques. This research informs future regulatory decisions and policy approaches. The impact of PFAS regulations extends beyond environmental concerns. Economic considerations, public health implications, and technological obstacles all shape policy decisions. Balancing these factors remains a key challenge for regulators and policymakers worldwide. As PFAS regulations become more stringent, a growing focus is on developing and implementing effective remediation technologies. This includes advanced water treatment methods, soil remediation techniques, and strategies for addressing PFAS in various environmental media. The global nature of PFAS contamination necessitates international cooperation. Efforts to harmonize regulations, share scientific data, and coordinate enforcement actions are ongoing. Differences in regulatory approaches between countries and regions persist, creating difficulties for global industries. Chapter 10: PFAS Litigation. PFAS litigation has transcended borders, becoming a global phenomenon that unites legal professionals, environmental activists, policymakers, and industry stakeholders worldwide. This comprehensive overview jumps into the evolving legal framework with a focus on recent lawsuits, settlements, and international developments. The sheer scale of the issue is evident in the fact that 3M is currently facing over 2,000 lawsuits related to PFAS contamination, with significant financial implications. In 2021, DuPont and Chemours agreed to a $4 billion settlement, setting a precedent for future cases. These lawsuits allege that companies were aware of PFAS risks but continued production, often resulting in confidentiality agreements and limited public disclosure. The financial implications of settlements are staggering. In 2024, 3M finalized a $12 billion settlement with public water systems for PFAS remediation, with payments spanning from 2024 to 2036. This settlement, one of the largest in PFAS legal action history, shows the financial burden on corporations and the long-term commitment required for remediation. Tyco Fire Products agreed to a $750 million settlement in April 2024 for water contamination from firefighting foam. BASF settled for $316 million in May 2024 with U.S. public water systems over PFAS contamination. Carrier Global and its subsidiary Kidafenwal paid $730 million in October 2024 to resolve firefighting foam claims. Class action suits represent communities affected by PFAS contamination, often resulting in huge settlements. The Hoosick Falls, New York case resulted in a $65 million settlement, while Parkersburg, West Virginia residents received $671 million from DuPont. Ongoing class actions include firefighters exposed to PFAS-containing foam and communities near contaminated sites. In November 2024, Nantucket residents filed a class action against DuPont, 3M, and BASF. Firefighter lawsuits have surged, with individual claims like the ulcerative colitis case in New York in October 2024. Consumer product lawsuits are emerging as a new front in PFAS legal action. A class action against Kenvue and J&J in July 2024 alleges PFAS presence in Band-Aid products. Bic razors faced similar claims in May 2024, expanding the scope of PFAS legal action beyond industrial contamination. State attorneys general are filing lawsuits against PFAS manufacturers to recover cleanup costs. In 2018, Minnesota settled with 3M for $850 million. New Jersey sued DuPont, Chemours, and 3M for environmental damage, seeking to shift remediation costs from taxpayers to polluters. Recent state-level actions include the Texas Attorney General's lawsuit in December 2024 against PFAS manufacturers for deceptive practices. Maryland expanded claims against Carrier Fire Americas and others in November 2024. Illinois and Alabama filed new PFAS lawsuits targeting 3M, Daikin, and Terray in 2024. The EPA's designation of PFOA and PFOS as hazardous substances under CERCLA in April 2024 has triggered Superfund liability. Superfund liability refers to the responsibility of potentially responsible parties, PRPs, to clean up hazardous waste sites. This regulatory change is expected to influence future litigation and corporate responsibility. State bans, such as Minnesota's 2025 PFAS ban on consumer products, also shape the legal framework. PFAS contamination is a global issue showing the need for international cooperation in addressing this issue. This has led to international legal action. Australia faces class actions over firefighting foam contamination near military bases. The country has banned PFAS in firefighting foams and introduced industrial chemical regulations, aligning with global trends. The European Union proposed a comprehensive ban on non-essential PFAS uses in February 2023. This phased prohibition includes a 10-year transition period for critical sectors. The UK's Health and Safety Executive is preparing a PFAS restriction proposal aligned with the EU's approach. These international efforts give hope for a coordinated global solution to the PFAS issue. In Asia, Japan introduced PFAS limits in drinking water in 2023. China, while lagging in regulation, faces contamination hotspots, according to 2024 studies. Canada regulates PFAS under federal environmental laws, with provinces like Quebec enforcing stricter standards. PFAS legal action is driving changes in industry practices. Companies are phasing out long-chain PFAS production due to legal and regulatory pressure. Some manufacturers are investing in alternative chemicals to replace PFAS. Due to mounting legal pressure, the outdoor gear industry is shifting away from PFAS-based water repellents. 3M announced plans to phase out PFAS production by 2025. The company faces billions in potential liabilities from PFAS lawsuits. DuPont spun off its PFAS business to Chemours, transferring some legal liabilities and leading to subsequent litigation between the two companies. Food packaging companies are exploring PFAS-free alternatives for grease-resistant products. These industry shifts reflect the far-reaching impact of PFAS legal action on product development and corporate strategy. The legal framework is reshaping entire sectors and driving innovation in chemical alternatives. PFAS lawsuits can take years to resolve, with class actions often lasting 5 to 10 years. Individual cases, such as those involving farmers, may settle faster but require 2 to 3 years. Legal costs and time investment can be substantial for plaintiffs, creating barriers to justice for some affected parties. Proving the source and extent of contamination can be difficult in agricultural cases. Farmers face unique legal action obstacles, accumulating agricultural losses over the years and complicating damage calculations. Some farmers join class actions, while others pursue individual cases, leading to varied legal outcomes. When companies cannot pay, bankruptcy may limit victim compensation. Chapter 11. Bankruptcy allows companies to reorganize and limit liability payments. Kidde-Fenwal, a subsidiary of Carrier Global, used this strategy to manage liabilities from over 4,400 lawsuits. Victims of PFAS contamination often receive limited compensation after legal fees. Lawyers take 30-40% of settlement amounts in contingency fees. Individual payouts may be small relative to health impacts and property damage, leading to dissatisfaction among class members. Long-term health monitoring programs, which address ongoing health concerns, are sometimes included in settlements. However, given the extent of harm, many affected individuals feel settlements are inadequate. The disparity between corporate payouts and individual compensation remains a contentious issue. Plaintiff strategies are evolving, shifting from environmental claims to consumer fraud. Greenwashing lawsuits, such as those against REI and BIC, represent this new approach. These cases allege deceptive marketing practices related to PFAS-containing products, where companies mislead consumers about the environmental benefits of their products. Judicial issues are shaping the legal framework. The American Water Works Association vs. EPA case in 2024 contests PFAS drinking water limits. Courts are rejecting 3M's federal contractor defense in cases in Illinois and Vermont, expanding corporate liability. The federal contractor defense is a legal doctrine that shields government contractors from liability for products they produce under government contracts. Its rejection in these cases signifies a shift in the legal framework, increasing corporate liability. Insurance battles are emerging as a significant aspect of PFAS legal action. Companies like BASF and Tyco are pursuing insurers to cover settlement costs. These cases show the financial strain on corporations and the potential for significant changes in how PFAS liabilities are handled in the insurance industry, which could have far-reaching implications for future litigation and corporate risk management. As PFAS legal action continues to evolve, it exposes corporate knowledge of health risks and increases scrutiny of chemical regulation. The outcomes of these cases will likely influence future regulatory approaches and corporate practices regarding PFAS and other emerging contaminants. This could lead to more stringent regulations, increased corporate responsibility, and a shift towards safer chemical alternatives, benefiting public health and the environment. The global nature of PFAS contamination necessitates international cooperation, yet differences in legal systems and regulations create hurdles for global PFAS accountability. As the legal framework evolves, it will continue to shape industry practices, regulatory policies, and public awareness of PFAS-related issues worldwide. Chapter 11. PFAS in fresh produce. Farmers plant seeds in soil that hides this poison. As they grow, PFAS seep into crops through roots, stems, and leaves. These chemicals bind to water molecules in the soil and hitch rides into plant tissues. Crops like lettuce and strawberries absorb them faster due to their shallow root systems. Even after harvest, residues cling to skins and leaves. Pesticides like fluroxypyr and clopyralid produced by Dow Chemical and BASF contain PFAS as an inert ingredient. These formulas spread across fields, leaving chemical fingerprints on produce, Rainwater washes pesticide residues into the soil, creating long-term contamination reservoirs. PFAS-laced sludge fertilizers, approved for agriculture, further poison farmland. A single application taints soil for millennia. Clay-rich soils trap PFAS, slowly releasing them to crops year after year. Sandy soils allow more profound chemical migration, contaminating groundwater and neighboring fields. Irrigation systems pump tainted water directly onto plants, accelerating uptake. Leafy greens like spinach absorb more PFAS through broad surface areas. Fruiting vegetables like tomatoes store chemicals in pulpy flesh. Imported produce often carries higher risks due to lax regulations abroad. Mexican strawberries test with elevated PFAS levels from industrial wastewater irrigation. Chilean grapes show contamination from outdated pesticide use. Indian basmati rice plantations near textile factories absorb dye-related PFAS. Monitoring these imports remains inconsistent. Strawberries are the most contaminated fruit, with 95% testing positive. Grapes follow at 61% and peaches at 58%. Spinach leads vegetables at 42%, followed by tomatoes 38% and cucumbers 34%. Nuts like almonds show lower but detectable levels of soil absorption. Microwave popcorn bags and fast food wrappers armor themselves with PFAS coatings. Brands like Orville Redenbacher use grease-resistant linings that leach chemicals when heated. Frozen pizza boxes from DiGiorno and Tombstone contain recycled fibers laced with PFAS. Canned soups from Campbell's and Progresso absorb toxins from epoxy resin linings. Even eco-friendly compostable bowls at Chipotle harbor these chemicals. PFAS invade boxed cereals through recycled cardboard packaging. General Mills Cheerios and Kellogg's Frosted Flakes show trace amounts in independent tests. Frozen meal trays from Lean Cuisine and Healthy Choice shed microplastics coated with PFAS. Granola wrappers like Nature Valley's use water-resistant linings that degrade into food. The microwave becomes a delivery system for contamination. Heating releases PFAS from popcorn bags into kernels. Steaming frozen vegetables in their plastic pouches transfers chemicals to food. Reheating takeout in containers accelerates chemical migration. Dishwasher-safe plastic meal kits accumulate PFAS through repeated heating cycles. Cardboard food boxes made with recycled materials carry historical PFAS from past uses. Pizza Hut's delivery boxes contain fibers from old food wrappers and industrial papers. Cereal makers like Post blend virgin and recycled pulp, forever chemical toxins into new packaging. Soy-based inks on printed boxes do little to offset chemical risks. Our final discussion will confront life on a PFAS-saturated Earth. We must learn to navigate shrinking timelines for health and longevity. If we act swiftly, adaptation strategies may buy back precious years. The clock ticks louder now. Chapter 12. So, what can we do? You've reached the most crucial chapter. What to do about the PFAS contamination crisis. Our planet faces widespread pollution in water, food, and everyday items. With 97% of people harboring PFAS in their blood, the health risks are undeniable. We now confront a daunting reality, the invisibility of these harmful chemicals in our daily lives. Our food has no labels indicating PFAS content or exposure during production and packaging. This lack of transparency leaves us vulnerable and uninformed. Tackling this issue requires a complete lifestyle overhaul. It's not a temporary diet or short-term project, but a fundamental shift in how we interact with our environment. The goal is to minimize PFAS exposure, to protect our health, and extend our lives. Let's start with everyday items. Say goodbye to disposable coffee cups and soft drinks in plastic bottles. Their unclear PFAS content makes them risky choices. At home, ditch plastic and paper plates for ceramic and glass alternatives. Yes, washing dishes takes effort, but it reduces PFAS exposure. Opt for stainless steel, wood, or bamboo utensils and cooking tools. Avoid plastic kitchenware, as heat can cause it to leach chemicals. Invest in a stainless steel or glass thermos instead of plastic containers for on-the-go beverages. Storage solutions need an overhaul too. Replace plastic Tupperware with glass or ceramic containers. While some plastics claim to be safe, history teaches us to be skeptical. Remember the Parkersburg, Ohio tragedy where 70,000 people were poisoned for decades? In the kitchen, use stainless steel, ceramic, or cast iron cookware. Forget about non-stick pans, regardless of their convenience. Thorough washing is needed for food prep. Vinegar is an excellent multi-purpose cleaning agent for produce and surfaces. Maybe use a water pick and wood toothpicks instead of dental floss. That might be a tough one. Consider transforming your yard into a vegetable garden. Growing your produce with source soil in large containers helps control PFAS exposure. Opt for heirloom seeds and focus on plants native to your region. In Ohio, for example, berries thrive well. Sourcing meat and poultry can be difficult. If possible, find organic or Amish producers. Otherwise, research your options and consider reducing the consumption of processed foods laden with preservatives and GMOs. Your garden can do double duty by growing herbs for cooking and tea making. Oregano, mint, parsley, and chamomile are easy to cultivate and can be used to make delicious PFAS-free beverages. Homemade herbal teas can replace store-bought soft drinks, saving money and reducing chemical exposure. Expand your herb garden beyond the basics. Thyme, rosemary, and sage offer robust flavors for cooking. Lemon balm, catnip, and hibiscus make refreshing iced teas. These plants thrive in raised beds or large pots away from contaminated ground soil. Create a dedicated tea garden with peppermint, spearmint, and lavender varieties. Dry excess herbs for year-round use. Experiment with blends to find your perfect caffeine-free pick-me-up. Herbal teas not only taste great, but also offer various health benefits. For soil, seek out leaf humus from uncontaminated forest or create your compost. Rotate crops annually to maintain soil health. Consider vertical gardening to maximize space and yield. With creativity, even small balconies can become productive herb havens. Clothing choices matter too. Favor natural fabrics like cotton, wool, and cashmere over synthetic materials. For footwear, leather or fabric options are preferable to plastic-based shoes. While we can't eliminate all synthetic materials, being mindful of our choices helps. Home furnishings present another opportunity for reducing PFAS exposure. Consider natural fabric coverings for furniture and car seats. Avoid fabric softeners and opt for natural cleaning solutions for surfaces and laundry. YouTube offers many DIY cleaning product tutorials. Create your all-purpose cleaner with vinegar, water, and essential oils. Baking soda works wonders on tough stains and odors. For laundry, try soap nuts or Castile soap instead of conventional detergents. These alternatives are clean and without harsh chemicals. Tackle shower cleaning with a mixture of hydrogen peroxide and water. Use microfiber cloths to reduce paper towel waste. Lemon juice cuts through soap scum naturally. For floors, a simple solution of hot water and a few drops of dish soap works wonders. Water filtration is needed. Invest in a system that removes PFAS and other contaminants from your drinking and cooking water. If possible, extend filtration to shower and cleaning water. A whole house purification system may be expensive, but is considered a health investment. Be mindful of environments with strong chemical odors like new furniture stores. When vacationing, opt for ocean swimming over chlorinated pools. Bring your drinks to the beach to avoid poolside PFAS exposure. Personal care products, too, require scrutiny. Many sunscreens, lotions, and cosmetics contain PFAS. Research PFAS-free alternatives and consider making your simple skincare products using natural ingredients. For example, you can make a natural sunscreen using zinc oxide, coconut oil, and shea butter. You can also create a moisturizing body butter with cocoa butter and essential oils. For hair care, try apple cider vinegar rinses and coconut oil masks. These DIY options reduce chemical exposure and save money. Replace conventional deodorants with natural alternatives such as crystal stones or homemade versions made with baking soda and arrowroot powder. Opt for mineral-based makeup and PFAS-free nail polishes. Every small change can reduce chemical exposure. This lifestyle shift may be overwhelming, but remember, it's about protecting yourself, not saving the entire planet single-handedly. By reducing your PFAS exposure, you're taking control of your health and extending your life. Implementing these changes gradually can make the process more manageable. Start with one area, such as kitchen utensils or water filtration, and expand from there. Every small step reduces overall PFAS exposure and contributes to better health. Education is key in this journey. Stay informed about new research and regulations regarding PFAS. Share your knowledge with friends and family to create a broader awareness of these issues. Collective action can lead to wider changes in product manufacturing and environmental policies. Remember, while we can't eliminate PFAS exposure in our modern world, we can reduce it. This proactive approach empowers us to navigate a contaminated environment more safely, potentially mitigating long-term health risks. As we conclude this exploration of PFAS contamination and mitigation strategies, let's embrace this knowledge as a tool for positive change. Your journey towards a lower PFAS lifestyle starts now, armed with information and practical steps to create a healthier living environment.